Top of the hour, and let's get started. So, welcome. I'm glad you're able to take some time to see this live. If you're watching this on the recording, hello. Um, my name is Kevin Mamajek, and I'm a product offering manager here at Tridium. And we're going to talk a little bit about the relation manager, and I'm going to review several slides that some of you have probably already seen, but it's important to tie the two together, and that would be how to tag in Niagara. So the version of Niagara that I will be using will be Niagara 4.15, which is available. And we will, looking at the Zoom or how we're recording it, there's a Q&A button that you can press. I am joined with Ruben, who will actually answer a lot of these questions while I'm speaking. So as you get a question, go ahead and fire it off. And then we are recording this session, so it usually takes a week or so for us to post it. People always ask for the station that I demonstrate in, so I will be posting that. I say that I'm working on it. I'm always working on it. In fact, part of the demo will be showing you that it's a station I use all the time for demonstration, and you work on it and forget what you did, and then you have to kind of go through and fix things. So I will post that for you guys to take a look at, and that will be at essentially just go find the Tridium Talk, and it's a link down below. Okay, so Tridium Talks, there's a button on the web page when you go to tridium.com that will take you there. Once you're there, just find the relation manager and tagging for June 26th today, and scroll down and you'll be able to see those links. So before we begin, I'm going to throw lots of stuff at you. This is just to kind of put it on the screen. Doesn't mean you need to take rapid notes, but it's kind of jargon that the industry and what Niagara uses. So you're going to hear this thing, a data model. And a data model, all essentially that is we're going to talk through it, is identifying the data to what it is, right? And we'll kind of walk through that and explain it. But you're going to hear me talk about a tag dictionary. Niagara has the ability to have multiple tag dictionaries. You're going to hear me say ontology, right? So that's a way of creating these relationships and these tags to identify that data. And you can have multiple ways of doing that. So if you hear these words, it's usually all around data modeling. So the taxonomy, the ontology, a query, all of those things will be something that if somebody is talking about how they can model your data, they kind of throw these terms at you. So I'm going to kind of tame that down to how Niagara does all that, and then we'll take a look at, again, some examples that I've done. So we have a service in Niagara that all it does is deal with tags, and I can have multiple ones. So in this station, I have a brick tag dictionary, I have a Haystack tag dictionary, I have a Haystack 4 tag dictionary. They can all run simultaneously alongside each other. And then I've actually created a couple of my own tag dictionaries where I will talk about tag rules. So keep in mind that Niagara is extremely flexible. As somebody comes up with a new ontology, we just need to look at that ontology, understand what it's doing, and then we can create a tag dictionary that's associated with that ontology. So it's extremely flexible, and we can add these in as they are created in the industry. And right now, Haystack, probably all of you know Haystack. They have a Haystack 4. They're working on 5, right? And so you hear of brick, all of those can run in this tag dictionary services. Some things that you might not have known is Niagara 4, when we created it, we actually had the tag dictionary service identify things inside of Niagara. So it's actually been here since the inception of Niagara 4. All of the cool things you can do with multiple tag dictionaries was looking at how the industry was moving and giving you that flexibility. So you're going to see that this service allows us to utilize tags in the analytics service. It allows us to do hierarchies with these tags. I can look at PX pages. So there's all kinds of cool things that other services within a Niagara can take advantage of those tags. So a couple things that we added into the tag dictionary is we had some feedback that we wanted to be able to tag an alarm point to know that there's an alarm associated with it. So we have a new tag that's available to you. And then we've added some not rules and conditions that help create more precise logic in an actual rule. So Haystack 4 is what I'll end up using today. You'll see that I'm running I'm running 3 and 4. I'm doing that on purpose to cause some chaos in my station, but it's not really chaos. It's what you'll encounter when somebody else tags and then you're adding new tags, right? So I'll show you how we're going to use the tag manager and relationship manager to kind of sort through that. There is a specific website that you can go that gives you all kinds of things on how the tags and the groups work. And you're going to see, I'm going to show you kind of one building I did in the middle of understanding how tagging. And then I have another building that I'll show you that I did it relying on the Haystack 4 tags to do everything. So I just did that this morning. I'm like, holy crap, it's pretty clean. So I'll demonstrate that. All right, so to note, you'll also see that there's this ID. When you were doing Haystack 3, it gave you the handle, which is not necessarily what you want in a tag to identify the breadcrumbs of where it is. So just keep in mind, Haystack 4, it actually automatically does that for you. I know that you can create them in 3, but you had to do a little work yourself to actually get to that point, and now it's done automatically. So there's a lot of things that 4 does automatically for you, which is pretty nice. Again, the tag dictionary in 4.14, we released the brick tag dictionary, so that's available to you. 4.15, we've added more tags and honed in on groups and relationships between those. So that will help you go down that journey if you're looking to identify things with the brick ontology. So tags. I have been, 7 years at Tridium? I've been talking tags, and every time I go into an audience, I'm like, how many people tag? And I get very few hands. And as we move into this new world of maybe cloud, we need to understand that. Now, tags have been around for forever, right? They tag animals, they tag cows. We put tags on goods to show that they're the price, right? And things of that nature. We put electronic tags on penguins so we can track where they swim. Tagging is not anything new. It might be new in our area, but it is something that the concept is pretty solid, right? So we use tags to identify what a point is, right? We need to say that if I'm a computer and I get this number 72, I understand what that number is, that it's a temperature or it's, some other thing. I have to explain that in that model on what it actually is and where it came from. So in today's and again, you might have seen these slides. I keep falling back onto them because I'm trying to get to a high level, and then we'll get into some of the details. But how do we get the ability for us to use the tag dictionary in a way that makes it easy for us? Because I think that when we look at tagging, we think it's a daunting task. And if I do it manually every single time, that's like me pulling a little sticky and putting it onto a thing and pulling sticky, and right, that takes time. I want to have it to a point where it just does it automatically. And I'm hoping this will probably be the last tag presentation I'm going to have to do, because there's pretty cool things that are coming from some folks that are in the Niagara community that might be able to help us do this automatically. And so I don't have to take this journey. But just like everything, understanding how it works, there's huge value, and then you'll be able to subsidize what some of these tools might be able to give us. So we're going to be the cook. We're going to use some tools. Just like a cooking show, I have stuff already in the oven that I will show you. But the ability here is how do we identify this information? So how do I give you the ability to look at something and then be able to identify it, tag it, and then we're halfway there, it's now part of a data model, right? So in this example, we have a building, we have a floor, an office, a space, we have air handling unit, an electric meter that's watching the air handler, and then a bunch of VAVs, right? And those are going to be spread out in some spaces. So to identify these, we need to look at them in some way. And you're going to see that I can visually do it and tag them with the tag manager, or later we're going to talk about how you could create a rule that does it automatically for you. So tag rules are ultimately where you want to be, because then once I've created that dictionary with rules, I just have to copy and paste it into the next JACE or supervisor, and then those same rules will kick off. So Haystack 4, actually, in my mind, doing this over and over, Haystack 4 actually made things a lot easier for me. So that's where I'll kind of concentrate on that. That was in Niagara 4.13 when it was first introduced, but they've done some nice work in the groups to do a lot of work on my behalf, as long as I start identifying what the root component is. You can go and read lots of stuff on this. So you can go and look at what their types are, what so they're going to throw buzzwords at you. But what I'm going to do is kind of boil it down into, we're going to go shopping for these tags, and we're going to use a tool inside of Niagara to allow me to see what other things are tagged, and then be able to apply those tags within that same shopping environment, right? But if you're really interested in how they've created these and what is part of the root and what is a marker and how they inherit all these other tags, there's a website that you can catch up on. All right, so when I say shopping for tags, using my cooking metaphor here, I need some place to go to shop, right? So I'm going to put these tags in my cart. I'm going to use this tool called the Tag Manager. It's something that we introduced that is all HTML, so I can get to this from a browser. And what's different about this with the edit tags is it actually lets me look at multiple points at the same time. Okay, the other way, if I do the Command E for the tag and I open that up, I open it, I close it, I open it, I close it, and it is very old-fashioned. So this modernized this, and this started the journey for me to understand, hey, let's go look at a point and then let's go compare it, right? So if I'm using tags for hierarchies and something's not working, it's easy to start to see how things are different, right? So keep that in mind. So there are components on the left side. Then there are essentially, I will drag and drop things into that window so that I can compare them all together. Then there is the actual component that lets me find these tags. So I can put in search terms, and then I can see what groups are there and what direct tags are there. And then there's the actual tags that are applied to that point that is selected. Okay, so in this example, that AHU1, which is selected, it's showing me all the tags that are associated with that actual piece of equipment. Now, implied and direct are two different things. Implied means a rule has done it on my behalf, and direct means I've actually thrown that tag or purchased that tag and put it on the point. And that's going to also be important to see, because a lot of these things like the air circuit, it does a lot of work for me. It put the air terminal unit, it put the parallel, it put entity. I don't want to put all those on my points. I just want to find what that is and then have the group tag go ahead and do that on my behalf. So it saves you a lot of time, and it also cleans things up, as you're going to see in my example at the end. So that is the Tag Manager. This is a tool that if you have not tried it, I strongly recommend trying it out, because once you use this, you'll get rid of the muscle memory of opening the tag editor and open this, and then you can start to explore your station in ways that you could never do before. The other thing that you'll see with Haystack 4 is when I'm dragging something in, it might need a value. A direct tag has the ability for you to enter some information to it. So here I'm entering the state and I'm putting in North Carolina. You'll see that Haystack 4 also has the ability to do pop-ups where you can only choose from what they actually recommend. And there's a method now in our tag manager in tagging with Haystack 4 to allow us to choose those things. So if we look at our building and I want to start identifying that building, I'm going to start out and saying, okay, this building is on a site, right? So it's its own site. And I'm going to show you why we would want to do that. And then I'm going to put in some other Haystack tags that just let me put a location to it, right? It could either be an address, it could be the city state. I'm adding all of them. It could be actually, there's one for, longitude and latitude. It's however you want to identify that. I'm putting that there so that I understand where that location is. And especially I have that for if I push my stuff up to the cloud, I might want to see a map of where those buildings are. And this will take care of that because it has that metadata, that identity of, hey, this building is at this address. Okay, so that's the first thing I start out on my journey on identifying them. Then the rest of them are, okay, I've got a bunch of stuff inside that building, right? I have floors, I have offices, I have conference rooms. How do I start to identify that? And one of the things that I wanted to do is, again, I'm going to put a group tag. So when I do a search for space, I could add space. And you're going to see in some of my examples, I've done that just because that was like the old way to do it with Haystack. But with the new Haystack 4, they can actually choose a group and then it does all that for you. So if I apply the zone space, it automatically inherits the space and the points and the HVAC and air quality zone points. I didn't have to add those. I just add the one and then it will go ahead and apply the others indirectly. Okay. So same thing with the air handler. I'm going to say, hey, this is an air handler. I'm going to tag it as it is an air handler. It will go then and say, hey, if you put this zone delivery, how is that being delivered? Is it a multi-zone? Is it a VAV zone? So these are enhancements of 4 that start to help you pick the right group. Okay, so here I get the air handler, it's a gas, which usually I don't care about. In our industry, we don't care about. But if I send this to the cloud wants to know, what is this? What am I looking at? Is it air? Is it a gas? Is it water? So those are things that I really don't want to burden myself with. So when I use the group, it does it for me. All right, so fans, I'm going to say that this is AC and it's an electric meter, it's a sub-meter, and then it automatically applies these meter. And, electricity is a phenomenon other than I should have had that. The Muppets. Oh, okay, never mind, I digress. All right, VAV, it's a circuit. It will go ahead and ask me whether it's in parallel or is it series. If I say it's in parallel, it will go and handle all of the components that are on there. Okay, so out of these slides, what I want you to take from this is look for the groups. That's where you should start. Don't start at the low level of a direct tag. Look at a group and then identify that device or that component with that group tag, and it does most of the work for you. Okay, and here's an example of choosing parallel or series from the air circuit tag. All right, that's tags. There have been relations in Niagara, and thus why this Tridium talk, right, is that how do we refer to these relationships and how do tags affect those relationships? And so if you looked at my building and the way I laid it out, if I apply a H4 space tag to the floor, Niagara automatically implies a reference to all of these things below it. Okay, so this is one of these things where I'm going to show you the way I did it first and then the way I cleaned it up, and it's actually very powerful. But normally I would have to think through this with Haystack, and I would say, okay, I need to put a tag on each space, right? Floor, and then I need to say that the office is a space, and then these references, and these are references, right? If I do that, It still works because with Niagara, you can do it in many different ways, but I'll show you how we can clean that up. But what I'm trying to get out of these slides is that a tag usually has some relationships that are automatically applied once you apply the tag. Okay, it's trying to do that work for you. Equipment, how many times? There's an air handler. We've got 4 of them. What VAVs are connected to that air handler, right? So there's an equipment tag, and then it gets these automatic references on that these things belong to that piece of equipment, okay? So again, from these slides, tags also include, especially in the particular tag dictionary you use, relationships that are automatically applied to make sure you don't have to think through, oh, if I have an equip, stuff below it needs to have the equipment reference. Okay. Here's the same thing for a site. I put one tag and then everything below it is going to inherit a site ref. Okay. So this was kind of kludgy when I was trying to look at relationships within Niagara. Trying to see them and visualize them was a stretch, and I'll show you. But there's this new tool in 4.15 called the Relationship Manager that starts to allow me to visualize this in ways that I couldn't do previously. So I can drill down on things, I can move the graph, I can take a look at what references are there. This is going to, again, when I demo it, is going to explain how it helps me visualize now how I have all these models set up. Okay, tag rules. Again, I'll just kind of review this. The goal here is if I have a space temperature and I have no idea what the point name is, you can actually create rules that apply that tag to variations in the name. So this becomes important when I have a portfolio and I've got multiple buildings and multiple integrators. I have to know what the naming pattern is, but I can create a rule that tags that data using those different naming conventions that they use. So if I've got a campus and I buy a new property, this is so important because I don't have to think through that when I say I need the space temp tag, I don't have to worry about what it's called. I just get all the ones that are associated with that. So little rules. And I do this like in pseudo code here, just so that you can see how I think through this. This is literally how I have to think through it to get the rule to work. I know that I have some tools available to me for ignoring case. So this regex is ability to do that. You'll see some things that I've done in the examples. I need to know about wildcards so that I can say something before, something after. I need to know the tag name that I'm going after, and then you'll see that there's some things with like. So if I'm looking for something with just room temp in it, I want to take the name and say that it's like, and then I'm going to put all this regex in here that says I don't care about whether it's a capital R or a capital T. Just I'm looking for the letters room temp, and they can be anywhere in the name because I put 2 wildcards. That's how powerful these rules can be. And then this is what this is what it translates into the actual tag rule. So here's one. If the name contains damper and, so an and means it has set point or SPT or command. So here I have to have damper and set point or damper and command together, but they can be either or in that same rule. So again, looking at the filter, I don't care about case. I'm looking for the word damper, and I'm looking for the SPT in that name and the CMD or the CMD, right? So this gives me the ability then to look at things specifically on what the name is and what component of those names they don't have. Okay, so here's one, damper and not set point or command. So you can put nots in there. And again, you can get logic then that gives you the ability to say, hey, I'm looking for something with damper, but not the space temp or the command. Okay, so when you look at creating these rules, you use them in the tag rules and you can create them. I've, in this example, broken it out so that it's, essentially each line is looking for a different type of thing in that name. You can do it all in the 1 strings that I showed you on the screen. So I kind of did this to kind of learn through it, and then later on, I just go ahead and I use the actual string that you see there on the bottom one on the filter. All right, hierarchies. So hierarchies can use relationships and they can use tags. So when you look at this, I'm saying, hey, let's go look at the geostate and the geocity, and then I can actually list those out in a hierarchy because I can sort on those, right? I can create these relationships. So here's something where I go out and say, hey, go find the state, go find the city, go find the devices, and it will go list those out automatically for me. So tags can help me create hierarchies that usually I have a hard time getting my head around. Analytics relies on tags. This is very important on looking for things inside the station, and the tags and the relationships go a long way to help you find that. So I don't look for points, I look for tags. That gives me the ability of saying, hey, if I've got, let's say I go after the temp sensor in this building, if I look at all of the tags inside the building, I will find 75 sensors for temperature. Okay, I can look at those as a group just by that tag. When I say, hey, give me with the analytics, give me the temp, and I need it for all the building, I will get all of the building typed out. If I go and look at the floors, I can go get the sensors for each floor. So now when you look at the max, average, or min, I'm only looking at 15 sensors instead of 72. So keep that in mind that the tagging starts to bring some intelligence into your system and allow you to do cool things. And don't forget searching. I can search for a piece of equipment. I can search for a floor. So I don't have to worry about the name of it. I just go ahead and do the cloud. Niagara Cloud Suite gives you the ability to take all that data and throw it up into a data store, and then use third parties, can use APIs to actually start to do cool things with that. These APIs use cloud IDs. So that gives me the ability to pull my, here I'm using Grafana, pulling that data in there. Now I have access to it so that I can do a different type of interface inside of a cloud app, right? So just to let you know, when I first started doing Niagara Cloud Suite, I'm like, hey, how do they do this? How do they understand what the model is? And so I looked at how they were identifying everything inside by this cloud ID, and created essentially a hierarchy that went and found those cloud IDs and walked it so that I could literally do a hierarchy based on the cloud IDs. So that's not a cheat sheet, but it was pretty cool because I understand how they were putting together that model without somebody's tags. You add your own tags, and this makes it so much more powerful. So future-proofing, easy searching, easy hierarchies, analytics, preparing for the cloud. There's all kinds of reasons why you want to do this. I'm showing you the manual way. I have a feeling this will be my last presentation on manually clouding, creating tags, because there are so many things in the future that the cloud is going to be able to provide you with, but it's not a get out of jail card. I still think if you do this manually, it puts you way ahead of the curve of anybody else trying to understand how to make sense of data once you start to move it someplace else. So don't use my comments of, oh, there's some cool things coming, to not do it, right? Taking meaningless data, putting meaning to it. All right, so with that, let's jump in and I'll do a real quick demo. And again, this is, I'm already going long, but you'll get the gist of this. But the idea was, if I started out trying to do relations with Niagara, I usually got only one level, right? If I'm looking at the AHU, I can see that it goes down into the floor. Granted, I could go down into the floor and see its relationships, but it breaks down pretty quick if I'm trying to compare things and look at things. So one of the nice things that this new relationship manager, which I go to views and I say relations manager, it takes things and puts it into a graph. And it starts to show you that, hey, these all relate in a way, either by these references to this building, right? And if I go and I look at a particular piece to this puzzle, that's a building. If I want to pull that out, you can see that, hey, we've got childs and we've got sites, references, but I can start to explore this. This also shows me all of the connections visually. And then if I want to get rid of these relationships, I can do, a shift click and get rid of all of them, right, with delete. So this in itself, just by showing you this, is becoming extremely powerful on how I can start to explore things, okay? So you'll see that all of these equipment refs I did manually. That essentially meant that I went into this building over here on floor, I did a relation mark on AHU1, right? And then I went in here and I said, okay, the floor, so this is the way we were used to doing it, right? Heck, I could even do the offices, right? And then I would go and say, hey, relate those back to that AHU, okay? So, oh, actually, I did a link, not a relation mark, but you get the picture, okay? So those, when I do it that way, will appear as manual links, because I'm going to show you later on that I don't have to do any of that. It inherits it if I use the right tags, okay? All right, so that's the relation manager. I can then go down and take a particular component and drill down. So it gives you the ability to explore, drag things around so that you can see what you're looking for. I can go into and out of those components. So much easier view of that than doing like a spy, right? And going down into and seeing what the parent and what's relating back to it, what's implied. Much easier for me to follow what's happening with those particular units, okay? So I have a bunch of hierarchies built that are using these relations. And so these are hierarchies I've used for a long time. And then I started to use these and see how far I could get without actually doing relations. And so this will be in the station for you to see. But I have two buildings. I have a building 1, and then I have a building 2. And building 2 is the way I should have done it to begin with. And then building 1 was over the many years, I just tag. And sometimes you need to go back and look at, well, why did I put that tag there in the first place, right? So this will let me see how things are done. So if I go into the tag manager, right, and I pull up the building, it gives me what's tied to the building. Now this is where it gets really cool. So, building 1 has 2 AHUs. So I'm going to drag in AHU1 and I'm going to drag in AHU2. Now I can start to look at these individually. If they're clicked together, I see them as a group. So be very careful of that, because I could apply multiple tags to multiple devices or components in here, which is the power of this. But keep in mind that if I want to see one individually, I do that. And then I can start to play, what's different about this device and that device on how it's tagged. Before, this was very cumbersome. Now it's very easy. If I want to go ahead and add a floor in here so I can see how the floors are, right? So I have floor 1 and floor 2, drag those in, and I can start to see, I did some shotgunning because I put spaces on there, and I want to clean that up. On floor 2, I didn't. So if you look at my hierarchy and you look at building 1 and you look at floor 1, I get everything I need, but I tagged them differently, right? So before, I never had a visual way of going in and comparing, do I really need these tags? And what's nice is I can look at them as, this is what's directly been applied to it, and, directly applied to it, and this is what's been implied through a relationship or a rule. Okay, so this has become my best friend, especially when I'm trying to do a Tridium talk, and I need to go back and look at, okay, I use this station all the time, which means I go in and change things and delete things and do things old ways and new ways. How do I figure out where I am, where that state is? So I can't overemphasize on how powerful this can be. Okay, so one of the things that I'll do here is we'll go back and we'll look at AHU1. And if you look here, AHU1, if I go into this building here, and this is because I did it the old way. So if we look at floor 1, where do I want to do this? I want to go down here in the hierarchy. So if we go here in the hierarchy, I have floor 1, and it shows you that AHU1 is actually working on floor 2, but that doesn't appear in floor 2. So, and again, this is my shotgun approach. So I have a lot of equipment refs that I've applied automatically. So here I do is I just look at this and we say, all right, why is floor 1 working and floor 2 is not working, and I can see that I have an equipment reference applied to that, and my hierarchy is looking for this child. So that's not there on AH2. So I could go back and say AH2, do a relations link, right? Mark that, and then I can go back to floor 2, and I can say, hey, that relates back to AHU2, and it's a child, right? So now, if we go back and refresh this, you can see that all of that has now come into play, where AHU2 shows up. So I found that not by staring at SPY, but just looking at the relations in this map here. So that, again, can save you a lot of time. So I'm hoping there are a few of you going, holy wow, because yeah, it is that apparent. And plus I can get rid of all these relations. So you see all these? So let me go and finish up with the last piece to this puzzle, which is, well, no, I'll come back and do real quick because I gotta end here. But let me go back to building 2. So let's look at building 2's relations manager, right? And you'll see that it's very different because in this one, I didn't apply a lot of manual relations. I just rely on the actual inheritance of those relationships through the tags that I place. Okay, so this is what's cool about this. So if you look at the floor, if you look at any of the other pieces, there are no dark, black, direct relationships. Everything is being inherited. And so when you look at my hierarchy down here, it works the same way. I'm now in the equipment piece of this puzzle, but it works the same way as if I would have manually tagged those relationships or put them in. But instead, I trusted the rules. And I'm like, oh, I get it now. I don't have all this stuff. And then if I forget one, I have to go back and add it. If you let it do the work itself, you don't have to clean up anything. And then you can go back and add, duplicate something, and they automatically inherit. So I can't overstress that this is a great tool to see how you can do that. And so if you look at floor 1 and you compare that to how I was doing that in here with all these direct relationships, I don't have to do that anymore. And I have a way of now understanding why I did it versus, hey, it's doing it itself. And that's how I can trust it more. All right, real quick, for the tag rules, right? I've got a tag rule that I've kind of laid out here. This is what they look like in Niagara. You see this bracket space? That's another regex. So when I first learned about I have to know a capital S or a small s or capital T, I started doing it that way. And then I think it was James Johnson that said, hey, there's a regex thing that lets you ignore case. And that's what I changed it to. So if I want to add this to say that I don't want to worry about case, right? All I have to do is that question mark I. And now when this runs, it gets compared, it's not going to care about the capital R or the capital T. It just does it automatically. So again, regex can be your friend. You don't have to do them on individual lines. You can see how I can do this on one filter, and I could have a complex filter. Okay, so it depends on how you want to visually do that. When you look at this, I've got that tag rule running. So I almost did the old way. That's like muscle memory. If we go over here and we look at the tag manager on that, I applied essentially no direct tags to this. Okay, so that means the rule ran and applied the airflow set point, and it applied other things like it's a set point, it's a gas. So here, just based on the name, I've done nothing other than name that point, and then everything is applied appropriately. So if you want to call that auto tagging, you can call it auto tagging. So more on that. I have more detailed Tridium talks on rules that you can do, but this is kind of a summary in the relations manager. So that's pretty much what I wanted to cover. Again, these are tools that help you visualize how to get more meaning out of your data. So I can't overstress that once you start them, it's a hard habit to not do, like I said, to come over here and do a view and edit tags, right? This is the old way, but this is the way that you can't really visualize and shop and see how things are all tagged together, right? So this is the old way. This is the new way that lets me do all kinds of things. And I can do multiple buildings and see how each one of those are laid out. So if I wanted to see how floor 1 and floor 2 of building 1 and 2 are tagged, I can go in and look. So you can see this was I over tagged. I was shotgunning. Well, probably wasn't shotgunning. I started out Haystack 4 and I followed the same methodology. No, Haystack 3 and followed the same methodology with Haystack 4. So anyways, I'm sure there were a lot of questions that were being asked. I will end with this where's my browser here? So again, hit Tridium Talks to find the station and watch the recording. If you're watching the recording, you've already found it. There's a document library, so I always get questions on, does the JACE 9000, what are the agency listings and approvals for the JACE 9000? All that's up there in our library where you can pull down those PDFs to get all that information. And again, there's Tridium University that allows you to take courses on tagging and things of that nature. So all these are great resources with that Tridium. So let me now, I know that Ruben has been answering a lot of questions. I'll kind of take a look to see if there's any there. Oh, somebody wants my PowerPoint. Sure, we'll throw that up there too. How is this being archived? When you animate a color of text based on the value the conventional way. So I'm not quite sure I follow that. Oh, okay. I think you're talking about my slide deck. So let me show you that real quick. I think I understand your question. So if you look at the way I was laying this out up here, the dark orange was applied, meaning I directly applied that tag to the point. The light orange in this instance is the values that I had to put into that tag. So I should probably make that a different color. Down here, this is saying that this is the direct tag, these are implied. So I think I'll change those colors right here, live, right? We'll make them green. That's probably what you were talking about. All right, so that is that. Let's see if there's any others. Let's see. So if you have tagging, if you tagged up a station, how does it benefit the client? This is where, again, the power of tags is they can immediately gain access to the tags in the search, right? I can go in there and I can search for components that I didn't have to worry about the name. I just go ahead and do the search for the tag. So let me pull up search here, right here. So so the other thing I didn't do, and I probably should have, because I wanted you to see what namespace I was using. So you see how I have H4? If that is your default namespace, I don't have to put H4. I can just type in temp, and that's the tag. So this by itself is extremely powerful for an end user. I tag, and they can go in and search the station through the web browser or through the interface, and they can find things much easier than they would if and this is I'll put the caveat that you didn't build them a hierarchy. The second thing for you as an integrator to give them is a hierarchy. That is extremely powerful. So a hierarchy allows you to mix things however you want. So using tags is a lot easier than going in and looking for all the names and the complex things that you had to do to build that hierarchy. So I found hierarchies are a lot easier for me to do using tags and relationships than they were before. Okay, so that would be another thing that's extremely powerful for them. And then analytics, if you run analytics, you can't do any of this without tags. So that's another inherent advantage of the customer, because they'll be able to see sophisticated dashboards that have smarts in them because the analytics is running. Good questions. All right. So somebody was talking about slots and NQL and names, no namespace. There's a lot in this question. So yes, if I direct tag, it does take a slot. In fact, I think and if you go look at my, I got to remember where I did it. I think if I go into, see, I go into floor. Okay, so see how I actually, if you look at these have, those are the relationships. So that's not what I wanted to show you. So if I go down here, I don't know if I did them, or I did them and I can't remember where I did them. But anyways, I can go in here and pin slots, right? And then if I have a direct tag, it would appear here. This again is the wrong place to go see that. Here, let's see if I got this. No, because I didn't, all these are rules. So, but yes, if I direct tag, it does take a slot. NQL still works. You can search for those. Let's see what else he had in there. There's a bunch of questions. I noticed with slots and transient flags, I need to get more context on Mr. On Christian's comment. So Christian, if you can put in more context, we can answer that offline. So again, I went way over. These are supposed to be like 15 to 20 minutes. I got carried away, but I had a lot of things I wanted to show you. This will also be the superset of all of the additional questions or other presentations that I've done. So if you start here and you see other tagging presentations, this will have more content because I pulled in the relation manager on how that works well with the tag manager. So again, I want to thank you for your time. Feedback is always welcome, and thank you very much. And yes, we will post the deck. I always see that. Check back on the URL.